Lisa Marie thought she knew every song her father ever wrote, until a cracked piano lid at Graceland revealed one more. Inside, wedged beneath the keys, was a sheet of music in his handwriting. The melody wasn't finished, but the words he left behind turned grief into something unforgettable. Stay until the end, because the song Lisa found didn't just heal a daughter. It gave millions a final verse from the king himself. January 8, 2023, Elvis Presley's birthday. Morning light slanted through the colored glass above Graceland's music room, painting gold and red across the floor. The air smelled faintly of polish and old wood, the kind of quiet that remembers applause. Lisa Marie walked in slowly, her boots soft against the marble. The white grand piano stood in the center like a sleeping animal, lid closed for decades. Beside it, the restoration crew worked carefully, tagging each instrument for the family's private celebration later that evening. Archivist Miriam Cole brushed her gloves along the lid. "This one hasn't been tuned since the 80s, she said. "We'll take it slow." Lisa nodded but didn't speak. Her father had written in this room. As a child, she used to sit under that same piano while he hummed chords that never reached a microphone. When the technician lifted the lid, the hinge groaned, and a puff of dust rose like smoke. Then clink, a small metallic sound. Something had dropped inside. The room froze. Miriam leaned over. "You hear that?" Lisa crouched, peering beneath the frame. Between the felt hammers, a yellowed corner of paper stuck out. She reached in gently and slid it free. The sheet was brittle at the edges, stained by time. Across the top, in faded blue ink, curved handwriting danced between smudges. Her breath caught. She knew that handwriting. "Dad's," she whispered. Eddie Ramos, the piano technician, set his wrench down. Could be a lyric sheet from a session. He used to store notes everywhere. But this one felt different. No title, no studio stamp. Just bars of music trailing into blank staff lines, as if he'd stopped mid-thought. Lisa's eyes filled. He always finished songs. Always. Miriam tilted the page toward the window, revealing faint pencil scratches under the ink. Notations, chord letters, half-erased words. What do you do when grief hands you one last note from someone you lost? Can a melody still heal when the voice that wrote it is gone? Lisa sat at the bench, her hands hovering above the keys. The same ivory her father had touched. She pressed one softly. The note rang pure, trembling in the stillness like a heartbeat returning. Outside, the wind moved through the magnolia trees, carrying the faint echo of that single tone. Miriam leaned closer, her voice barely a whisper. "There's writing at the bottom." Lisa turned the sheet over. Another line of ink hid in the crease, almost invisible. It wasn't lyrics. It was a date. August 10th, 1977. 6 days before he died. Her pulse raced. She looked again at the trembling letters, wondering what story they were waiting to tell. The piano that had gone silent for decades had just spoken again. Lisa's fingers trembled as she traced the faded blue ink. At the top of the page, one title, "The Mirror's Edge." Miriam's eyes widened. That title's not in the archives. Lisa flipped it gently, careful not to tear the edges. The handwriting was unmistakable. Each loop and flourish carried the rhythm of someone who lived inside music. But halfway down, the words broke off mid-sentence. A jagged pencil line ran through the last lyric as if he'd stopped mid-thought. And beneath it, written faintly in pencil, a note. "Finish this with her." Lisa froze. With her who? Miriam shrugged. Uneasy. Could mean Priscilla. Maybe a duet idea. But Lisa shook her head slowly. No. He called her Scylla. He never wrote her. The ink had bled faintly through the paper, proof it had been written in a hurry. Lisa could almost picture him there, alone in this room, August heat pressing through the Memphis night, hands trembling on the piano he used to call his chapel. The date hit her again, August 10th, 1977. 6 days before everything stopped. Eddie examined the page under light. These chord markings, see this shift from C major to a minor? He didn't do that often. It's almost intimate. Miriam flipped through the family catalog. It's not in any studio log. Not Sun, not RCA, not Jungle Room sessions. It doesn't exist on record. Lisa looked up, eyes glassy. Then why does it? The handwriting was heavy near the top, lighter near the end, as though he'd been fading even while writing. She whispered, "He left this unfinished. Was the song meant for someone else? Or was it a message waiting for her all this time? What happens when goodbye hides in plain sight?" Miriam carefully lifted the page again, and something crackled. A narrow strip of tape was stuck to the back, its corners sealed by age. Eddie leaned in. "That's reel-to-reel. Quarter-inch. Old-school home recording." Across the label, written in that same slanted blue hand, 3 words chilled the room. "Piano Room Demo." Lisa's breath hitched. "He recorded it?" Eddie nodded slowly. "Looks that way." The sunlight through the window caught the tape reel, making it shimmer like gold. Lisa clutched it against her chest, unable to speak. For 45 years, the piano had guarded its secret. Now the silence had given her something even rarer, her father's last voice, waiting inside a roll of magnetic memory. The tape felt heavier than it should have, as if time itself had soaked into the reel. Lisa held it like something sacred, afraid to breathe too hard. Eddie cleared his throat. "We'll need to clean it first. Tape that old can snap easy." They moved to the archive lab, where old machines still hummed under flickering fluorescent light. The reel-to-reel player, a restored Ampex, waited on a metal table. Its surface gleamed like it knew the importance of what it was about to hold. Miriam adjusted the knobs. "Ready when you are." Lisa nodded, eyes locked on the spinning reels. A click, then static, then a low hiss steady as breathing, and then his voice. "Testing, testing, 1, 2. The sound was raw, close, human. Elvis Presley, not the stage god, but the man behind the echo. His tone was weary but gentle, soft as confession. "This one ain't for the record books," he murmured. "Just for the quiet." Lisa's eyes filled instantly. Her lips trembled. The piano started. Just a slow pattern of notes, fragile and haunting. He hummed, then began to sing. "When the lights fade, love stays." His voice cracked mid-phrase, but the imperfection made it feel alive. It wasn't performance. It was presence. Lisa clutched her chest. "He sounds tired," Miriam whispered. "He sounds real." The melody rose and fell like a heartbeat. No backing band. No audience. Just him and someone you could feel but not see. Then came a faint sound in the background. A small laugh. High, soft, unmistakably a child's. Miriam's eyes widened. "Wait, that's..." Lisa's face went pale. It was her. The tape hissed again. Elvis laughed softly through the mic, voice warm now. "That's my girl." Then silence. The reel spun on empty air. Lisa's knees weakened. She gripped the edge of the desk. What is this?" she whispered. Eddie rewound a few seconds and played it again. The laugh repeated, her 9-year-old self, somewhere in the background of his final days. The sound pierced through years of loss like sunlight through glass. Lisa covered her face, shaking. "I don't even remember being there." Miriam placed a hand on her shoulder. "Maybe he wanted you to. Was this his hidden goodbye? Or a gift meant to outlive them both?" Lisa studied the tape box again. The handwriting across the top read, "Piano Room Demo." But in smaller print beneath it, barely legible, another line appeared. "Keep for her." She gasped, the realization sinking in. He'd recorded it for her, left it for her, and somehow, by some twist of grace, it waited 45 years to be found. Eddie hit stop. The reels slowed to a whisper. Lisa stared at the machine, her reflection faint in the metal. "He never said goodbye," she whispered. "He sang it." The tape clicked one final time, and in that quiet, the room felt like a church, air heavy with memory and sound that refused to die. Miriam exhaled softly. Maybe the song wasn't unfinished after all. Maybe it just wasn't her turn to play her part yet. Lisa looked up. "Then it's my turn now." For days, Lisa couldn't sleep. The sound of his voice replayed in her head. The gentle rasp, the unfinished melody, the laugh she didn't remember giving. Each night, she returned to the piano room after the visitors left, pressing the same worn keys he'd touched, trying to feel what he might have felt in those final days. Miriam joined her on the third night, carrying the sheet music in a protective sleeve. "I scanned the page under ultraviolet," she said. "You need to see this." Under the special light, faint pencil marks bloomed across the staff lines, scribbles layered beneath the ink. Two distinct handwritings emerged. One bold and looping, one smaller, uneven, childish. Eddie leaned closer. "That's not all him." Miriam nodded. "No, the second handwriting looks like a kid's." Lisa frowned. A kid? She didn't need to ask who. The strokes were shaky, curved like someone mimicking their parents' letters. The handwriting analyst confirmed it 2 days later. Comparing old birthday cards and school notes, it matched perfectly. It was Lisa's. A memory flashed, her as a little girl, sitting beside him on the piano bench. He'd smile, play a few chords, and hand her a pencil. "Add a word, darlin'. Doesn't matter what. Songs are just feelings with names." The analyst pointed to a faint line under his verse. The words read, "I'll play it back someday." Lisa gasped. "That's mine. I wrote that." Her voice cracked under the weight of it. She hadn't just found his last song. She had helped him write it. Miriam whispered, "You finished it before it even began." Lisa sank onto the bench, the same spot she'd sat as a child. "He knew," she said softly. "He knew I'd come back to it." The paper trembled in her hands. "He wasn't asking someone else to finish the song," she said slowly. "He meant me." Eddie stepped back, his voice quiet. "Then maybe that's why he hid it in the piano. So only you could find it." The revelation spread through the room like sunlight breaking through clouds. Can love outlast memory itself? How many goodbyes live hidden in the things we thought we already knew? Lisa rested the page on the stand, tracing the notes. The spaces her father had left empty looked less like absence now and more like invitation. She pressed one key, then another. The melody came alive, fragile, hesitant, then strong. The same notes from the tape filled the room, but now her voice joined softly above them. "When the lights fade, love stays." Tears rolled freely. The piano answered back as if the years between them had dissolved. The song wasn't just his anymore, it was theirs. When she finished, silence wrapped the room. Miriam whispered, "You just brought him home." Lisa smiled through tears. "He never left." She looked down at the piano and whispered the words written decades ago. "I'll play it back someday." And she had. February 1st, 2023, Lisa Marie Presley's 55th birthday. The Graceland ballroom shimmered in candlelight. Rows of chairs filled with family, friends, and a few quiet journalists. The white grand piano sat center stage, polished and waiting. The same piano that had hidden her father's secret for 45 years. Lisa stood beside it, heart pounding. On the stand rested the faded sheet music, the mirror's edge. The edges were brittle, the ink faint, but the story behind it felt eternal. Miriam touched her arm. "Are you sure you want to do this live?" Lisa smiled softly. "He left me half a song. I think it's time I give him the rest." Eddie adjusted the mic, testing the cables. The murmur of the small crowd settled into silence. Outside, rain tapped softly against the stained glass windows, like a metronome set to memory. Lisa sat down. Her reflection wavered across the glossy keys. "Dad," she whispered under her breath, "let's finish this." Her fingers hovered, then pressed the first chord, C minor. The sound filled the room, low and aching. She began to sing. "When the lights fade, love stays." Her voice cracked slightly, but no one looked away. The tone was raw, trembling, real, nothing polished, nothing staged. Every syllable carried the ache of unfinished years. Halfway through, she paused, breathing hard, then added the missing words, the ones he'd never written. "When the lights fade, love stays. Even time can't take our song away." Miriam covered her mouth. Eddie lowered his head. A soft sob rippled through the crowd. Lisa closed her eyes and kept playing. The melody built, richer, fuller. 2 generations of pain folding into harmony. She ended with one final line, whispered more than sung. "This one ain't for the record books." The piano held its last note, trembling in the still air before fading into silence. For a long moment no one moved. Then applause rose, not loud, but tender. 1,000 small hands in one heartbeat. Miriam whispered, "It's him," through her. A flash from a camera burst. Someone near the front wiped tears with a program that read "Private Tribute, February 1st, 2023. Lisa stood, tears streaking her face but smiling through them. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for listening to him one more time." Outside, the wind carried the last echo of the piano through the magnolia trees. By morning, the recording, captured by a journalist's hidden mic, had found its way online. Within hours, it flooded social media.
Millions listened.
They didn't hear just her, they heard them. The unfinished song had become a bridge between what was lost and what refused to die. Lisa sat alone later that night, watching the video replay on her phone. She smiled through the ache. "We did it, Daddy," she whispered, and somewhere in the stillness, beneath the creak of the piano lid, it almost felt like someone whispered back. By sunrise, the video had traveled farther than any tour ever could. 12 hours after the performance, The Mirror's Edge trended across every platform. 25 million views. One caption kept repeating beneath every upload. "He never left. He just waited for her to finish." Outside Graceland's gates, candles lined the brick wall for half a mile. Fans stood in quiet rows, phones raised, the soft glow reflecting on wet pavement. Someone played the new recording from a speaker, and strangers began humming together. No cheers, no shouting, just harmony. News anchors called it Elvis's final duet. Music historians confirmed the handwriting and voice patterns were real. The discovery rewrote the ending of the Presley story, not as tragedy but as testimony. Miriam watched from the window of her office, tears glistening. She turned to Lisa, who sat beside the same white piano, still wearing the black jacket from the night before. "You know," Miriam said quietly, "he always wanted one song that didn't belong to the charts." Lisa smiled faintly. "Now he's got one that belongs to everyone." That afternoon, reporters gathered for a press statement. Lisa stood at the podium, the sheet music framed behind her. Her voice was steady but soft. "Dad taught me that fame fades, but love leaves echoes. This was one of them." Applause rippled through the hall, but she didn't linger. She walked straight to the piano, pressed one key, and let the note fade on its own. Within weeks, the Presley Foundation launched a new initiative in her name, the Love Stays program, funding free music therapy for grieving children. The world that once screamed for Elvis now whispered healing through the same melody he wrote in silence. A brass plaque was placed beside the piano, August 10, 1977. One song left unfinished, now complete. Visitors traced the engraving with their fingertips, leaving fingerprints beside hers. Some cried, some prayed, some simply smiled. How can a melody written in grief end up saving others? Can a goodbye evolve into a beginning? Weeks later, during a quiet interview, a journalist asked Lisa what the song truly meant. She looked down, then back at the camera with a small, knowing smile. "It wasn't goodbye," she said. "It was good night." Her words spread faster than any headline, because everyone who heard them understood. Some songs never end. They just wait for the right moment to be played again. Evening settled over Graceland, soft and golden. The crowds had gone. The candles had burned low. Inside the music room, the white piano stood quiet again, its surface reflecting the last traces of sunlight. Lisa walked in alone. The air hummed with memory. Every corner held the echo of what had been played, said, and felt. She sat down at the bench and ran her hand across the keys. They were warm, as if still holding someone's touch. The framed sheet of music stood nearby under glass, the title The Mirror's Edge glowing faintly under the light. Lisa smiled, small and tired but peaceful. For most of her life, she had lived beneath his shadow, the fame, the tragedy, the myth. But now, at last, she had found the man inside it. She pressed one key. A single note rang out, pure, steady, infinite for just a moment. Then it faded. A child's voice broke the silence. A young visitor had wandered in with his parents, eyes wide at the piano. He reached up, tapped another key, and the sound echoed like a heartbeat through the room. Lisa looked at him and smiled. "That's how it starts," she said softly. "One note at a time." The boy nodded, then whispered, "It sounds happy." She laughed gently. "It's supposed to." The parents thanked her quietly and led the child out. When the door closed, Lisa stayed seated, staring at her reflection on the piano lid. Half her, half him. She whispered, "We finished it, Daddy." For a long moment, the house was still. Then, faintly, the air moved. The lid creaked just enough to let a single soft vibration slip through the strings. It almost sounded like the first note of Love Stays. Narration fades in over the moment. Love doesn't disappear. It just changes instruments. Some songs never end. They only wait for the right hands to play them again. Lisa closed the lid gently. The camera lingered on the brass plaque beside it. August 10th, 1977. One song left unfinished, now complete. Her footsteps echoed down the hallway, fading into the quiet hum of Graceland at night. Outside, the lights flickered softly across the gate, forming words fans had left in chalk. Love stays. And somewhere in that silence, the music lived on. If this story touched you, share it with someone who helped you find your melody. Because love, like music, never fades. It just waits for the right key to be struck again. Sometimes the final note of one story becomes the first chord of another. And when you hear it, play it back.